how would you like to make your first millions? And today we have Jared joining from United States. And after 15 years working in the family business in the tire shop, he decided that it was a good idea to start his own business. And today he has sold millions, over 2 million online with the business. So, Jared, tell us, what are the 2 million tries? So, what are the 5 steps to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Well, I don't know if it was a good idea, but it worked out. So I would say first, go into an industry or a business that you're a domain expert, something you've spent time in that you really fully understand all the aspects of. The second one I would say,
you knew because it was part of the family business.
yeah,
So you knew about that type of product, right?
exactly. So I spent 13, 15 years in my dad's business. He also spent obviously multiple decades in it. I got to really understand it fully. I worked in all aspects from the warehouse to doing warranties to B2B sales to business development. Like I understood everything. I did logistics. So it was a very easy transition for me to kind of get into the next phase of my career, which was running TireAgent. Yeah, and it was a very smooth transition because I knew everything in terms of the industry. So once you do that, I would say the next step for sure is you got to be not in love with your business, but be in love with the industry. So fail fast. So if something's not working, don't be afraid to say, hey, it's not working. Let me shut it down and restart a different idea in the same space. We pivoted 4 times.
Wow.
So we were a mobile tire shop for a little bit. We were a B2B2C software company for tire shops. That didn't work. We were a regular e-commerce company. That didn't work. And then we kind of evolved into what we are today. So do not be afraid to fail because you learn from failure and then you can grow from it. Then after that, I would say be obsessed with customer service. That's me. I read almost every review that comes in. And I'm not scared to make changes. If enough people say something is wrong, there's something wrong. And if enough people say there's something great, then I want to make it greater. So if you look at our reputation online, over 20,000 reviews online, stellar reviews. People love us. We have a very high repeat purchase rate, which means we're doing something right, especially considering it's not a product that you need to use every month, right? But we still have a lot of people coming back. We get a lot of relatives of people, a lot of neighbors, friends, word of mouth. You got to be obsessed with customer service because if it's easy to make the sale, it's not easy to keep them coming back. And if you only care about just making the one-off sale, then your customer acquisition cost is going to go up. The repeat purchase rate is what brings it down. That's like is SEO, right? That's what you want. So I read every review. We constantly making changes and we have a heart. When a customer says is going through a hard time, we hear all sorts of stories being a national company. When I hear someone's going through a hard time, I sometimes, depending on the story and depending on the case, I'll help. We had a customer that was going through a really tough time with their job and they needed just a break. And I tell our customer service agents, got to have a heart. You got to be there for people that really need it. So that's what I mean by being customer obsessed. Yeah. And what we teach our agents, I don't care whether it takes 5 minutes or whether it takes 2 hours. You take your time, you walk them through whatever they need, and then you end the call when it's appropriate. But you never rush a customer off the phone because you want them to feel good about the purchase. You want them to feel excited about what they did, even if it's tires, right? It doesn't have to be, a TV or a computer. Like you want them to feel excited over the purchase.
Absolutely.
I always say, surround yourself with not only good people, but people that want to do the jobs that you don't want to do. So, if you're not enjoying the job you're doing, right, you're not going to want to do it. So if you surround yourself with people that have the skill set and that are good character people, it makes your job easier. And then the last thing is have fun. I mean, you're on the best journey of your life. It's the hardest journey, but it's also the best journey. And I once heard something that says, you don't know happiness unless you know sorrow. That was a saying that someone once told me. And it's true. I mean, look, I was almost homeless. I, at one point, had a time in my life where I lived off of crackers and jelly, and I couldn't even afford a sandwich.
Wow.
And now, if you look at where we are today, we're one of the fastest growing online retailers in the country. And I'm able to appreciate it. And I wake up feeling blessed and happy every day. But part of it's because I know what it's like and where I came from. And if you know where you come from and then where you're going, it makes the journey a lot easier.
100%. But then Jared, let me share something with you, like because one of your steps was saying that you had to pivot the product, yeah. So I have a news for you. Out of the 500 multimillionaires that we interview in this broadcast on Unstoppable, 5 Steps How to Make Your First Million, I'm still waiting for the first person to come here that said, Harry, the product exactly how I designed it, it was how the client want to buy it. It didn't work that way.
Never the case.
He was,
Whatever
I'm
product you're
still
starting
waiting.
in,
I'm still waiting. He's gonna come to this broadcast to tell me that story. But it's not. That's not reality. Reality is that you put out there a product that you think that you're gonna sell, but once you offer it to the marketplace, it's the marketplace was gonna tell you what they're willing to buy and for how much. And regardless that you're in love and you think that that's the product at the beginning, in these interviews, we interview one person that is a device that was for timekeeping. Yeah, I'm telling you about the 80s. He came to this. He shared the story that Harry, I create this device and I went out to companies trying to sell this device like it's a mobile phone to all the employees and everything. Turns out, and nobody bought one. And turns out that what people wanted is the service, not the device.
yeah.
So at the
I
moment
mean,
that he started to provide the service using the device to timekeeping for company and how much money you can save the employee, now everybody all of a sudden the product is amazing, but it's not in the form that he initially thought that the market would adopt it. So same with your case when you say, well, Harry, I had to pivot. And the problem that we have with the first time entrepreneurs is that they're so in love with the product as it is that they don't have the flexibility to pivot. They don't have the flexibility to change. So what made you, Jared? Yeah, because you do have experience in the industry already, like
yep,
working in your so 13, 15 years. So you have that idea, and then you said, I'm gonna launch this product. So what
yep.
happened? Why you decide that you have to be flexible? That actually your first idea somehow the customer was different feedback, and it's time for you to drop your ego and to drop that this is the perfect product and start to adjust to.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is it depends on your life. Like for me, I know I told you like my parents had a business, but they were going through a really tough time at that point in my life when I had quit.
Wow.
And I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have parents that were going to come save me financially. And so for me, it was all about succeeding. And I was not going to let the idea
Wow,
drown
really
out the
powerful.
fact that I needed to survive. Like I needed to care about myself because nobody was going to rescue me. And I came out of a tech accelerator. So the people that had basically what had happened was I knew I didn't want to be in my family's business anymore. And so I went on LinkedIn, pitched an idea to a stranger. And a week later, that stranger decided to make me an offer and become an investor. And so I quit. While I quit, through that like year time, my family had started through some tough times. And I knew that I would not have a backup plan at that moment. And I had to just survive. And while you're in that ecosystem of other startups, because you and I had talked about this before, right? 90% of startups fail in the first like 2 years. I had seen all these startups floundering
In tech
over
is
their
even
idea.
worse, I think.
Yeah.
In your
And in tech,
space, tech. Whew.
yeah. And so what had happened was they were in love with the idea. Now, over the years, over the last 7, 8 years, I have seen countless startups fail for the same two reasons. One, they refuse to pivot in time. And the second one is a disagreement among founders. Those are usually the two. But overwhelmingly, it's the lack of pivoting at the right time.
I
And
agree with you
so I
100%.
so what I decided to do was I said, I'm going to throw stuff at a wall And if something doesn't work in 30 days, 60 days, I'm just going to keep moving
Pivot
until
it.
something sticks. Yeah. And I
What they
just moved
want.
lightning
We have to
fast.
keep going to find out what they really want.
Exactly. And you can't think to
Who's your
yourself,
client and what they really want. You have to become obsessed with
100%.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're on.
Mm.
And just because you're getting sales in something, that doesn't mean you should keep it. It's not just about getting the sales. It's, can you get the sales in an efficient, cost-effective manner?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could take millions of dollars, throw it at a wall, and get someone to buy it. But you got to make sure it makes financial sense. So I would say that is how I kind of knew, like, I was getting sales, but it wasn't at a easy pace. I was like pulling teeth to get $10,000 a month in sales, you know, and I was going down with the ship. And I just said, no, that's not happening here. And I just kept pivoting until something worked, because I needed to eat. I needed to survive, and I had to make it work.
Well, now tires. My dad actually changed the tire of the car recently, and I learned a lot out of this. I'm based in London. I live in London. I don't drive there. Is different than US somehow that no everyone needs a car here in United States. Everyone needs a. My dad he lives in United States, and he had to change the tires, and I did learn a lot about tires that I didn't know. My dad told me, Harry, do you know that a tire? I don't know if he told me about 8 years life or whatever, but he told me that you need to buy it uh, recently because otherwise they get bad. And uh,
Yep.
and he showed me how to read the year of the tire because it's actually printed in that tire. I have no
Yep.
idea. And if I had to buy tires in my life, I will never would even check this because I don't have any clue what I'm doing. I decide for another one. But my dad told me all this information. So what he what it means is do need a form of expertise, yeah, to go to the
Yep.
expert in the market. Regardless that, yeah, you can maybe buy in other places, but when you buy from the authority, when you buy from the expert in the market, you have that quality that is back up by this. Tires are very important. So important that if you have an accident with the tire to the speed that people drive in United States, could be could be very little, could be little, right?
Well, tires have a
That's so
science.
important.
Yeah, tires have a science. People don't realize. So every tire has its own features, its own purpose. You know, there are so many different reasons. I go on a lot of, I get interviewed a lot, right? And so people always ask me, you know, what's your favorite tire? And it's like, no, dude, it's not what's my favorite
It
tire.
doesn't work.
It's how am I using the vehicle? Like if I'm going for very long mileage, right? Then I want something quiet, I want something high mileage, and I want something comfortable. If I'm driving in a really bad area, then I want something that's going to grip the road in the wet weather and in the slush. If I'm driving a performance car, then I want something that's going to handle the road like a performance vehicle. So
And if you drive it
every
in Florida, which the roads get really hot,
yes, yeah, and so that then you to the
they
performance
can
side,
get
right?
hot, they can get overheat, and
Yeah, you need, you know, every industry that is boring has its own science, right? And so the tire industry is very fascinating to me, but very boring to consumers. And so
well,
it's
as
my
soon as
job to down.
educate them, and to see, because yeah, it's boring. Now, as a business model for online, the thing that I like is that it's like cut the eventually, you will have repeating clients because my dad told me I don't know how many every year, how many 3 years, 5 years, something like that. People need to change them, depend how much they
Sure.
move. But again, my dad told me again that the lifespan of the tire is 5 years, six, something like this. I don't remember. So either if you move or not, after a certain period of time, you have to change them anyway because they get damaged. I didn't know that tire expired.
Well, yeah,
and,
it
and
depends. It depends on a lot of factors. I mean, it depends on what you're using the vehicle for. It depends on how often you're using it, what kind of
mm,
roads you're on, what you hit while you're on the road, right? There's so many different things. I mean, some people change them every year or two. Some people change them every 5 years. Some people every 3 years. It's all over the
Exactly.
place, depending on the customer. But you're
Yeah,
right. People
my dad
need to
doesn't
get
drive too
tires.
much, honestly. He's also he comes from supermarket things like this. But anyway, here's the thing: a tech business, retail online tech, in an industry that is already other people in the marketplace offering the product online, is really competitive and very expensive. The customer acquisition
Yep.
process direct to consumer. You're talking
Yep.
about, do you really knew in what you were getting into when you start to realize because of the consumer online direct is so that that and then I that the tires are heavy, so your cost of delivery is
Yeah.
also not cheap, right?
Well,
So
if I knew,
how you mitigate all this, because it become a huge challenge to sell direct to consumer with the big
yeah.
boy, because there are big boys out there offering kind of the same.
Well,
So you have to be niche
I,
and be the expert, yourself as the expert in the marketplace, right?
well, I think you're right on one thing. If I knew it was this challenging, I don't know if I would have started.
Oh my God!
but I will
Once
say
you are
that
in, you have
you're
to
in.
make it work.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I don't think, okay, so my philosophy is very different than a lot of people's philosophy. If there are a lot of people doing it, then that means there's market
There's a
demand.
market for it.
There's a
Absolutely, I
market
with
for it.
you 100%,
Yes,
hundred
I
percent.
am not in the trying to create demand. If the demand is
No,
there,
you
that's
just
where I
need
want
to
to go.
share the marketplace.
Exactly. The other thing is I didn't want to sell on eBay, Amazon, Walmart, any of the marketplaces. And the reason why I didn't want to do it is because I wanted the ability to have a personal connection with the customer. I wanted the ability to retarget them. I wanted the ability to communicate with them. And if I had sold on the
To
marketplaces,
nurture
I feel like,
them.
yeah, I feel like on the marketplaces, you lose that relationship, right? There are other benefits, which is probably a cheaper acquisition cost or whatever it may be, and you get ready to the audience. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to create my own audience, and I wanted to educate the customer on my experience. When you sell in the marketplaces, it's their experience, right?
Absolutely.
And
What type
the
of
other,
experience you want your clients to
yes,
have,
exactly.
and what and how much are you willing to look after them in order to get this kind of, we're not gonna premium service, but we like, for example, we like where if that is important from you,
Yeah,
you will go to the authority.
exactly.
If tires are something that, well,
We,
you will buy anywhere else. So uh, tell us around the tires. But maybe people don't know.
and tires are incredibly important. And you can look at a variety of reasons. You could look at, is it going to last long? Is it going to keep me safe on the road in the snow or the rain? Is it going to perform really well around turns or acceleration? Is it going to preserve my gas mileage? Can it hold the vehicle for the new electric vehicles that are out there? You
uh,
got to get the right tire
they're
that can handle
heavy.
the weight.
They're
They're
heavy.
heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch you got to look at and talk to an expert. On TireAgent, we educate the customer. We try to dumb it down so it's really easily digestible, because
Hmm.
they are, there's a lot of information, and
Absolutely.
we're always perfecting the
And it's very
experience. We
technical
do
also.
very, very technical. But what I had fun running an e-commerce site is, you want the prices to be competitive, but you have to offer more than just the price to get a customer to keep coming back.
Absolutely.
And that kind of goes
Value.
back to being obsessed with the customer experience and the service, right? And so people remember one of two things: a really bad experience or a really good experience. They don't remember a so-so experience. And
Hmm.
so we really try to go above and beyond for our customers. And that has proven to be our secret sauce in keeping the customer coming back over
So how
time.
you find your first client, which is the most difficult, the biggest challenge that tech entrepreneurs have out there, because you're starting, nobody knows you, and then you have this product
Yep.
online, nobody knows you, nobody trusts in you. So how you find these first clients? Any tips for the listeners?
Pray. No, I'm just kidding. For us, I mean, we live in a world today where you can advertise in so many different avenues. You have Google search, you have Google shopping, you have Facebook, you have Instagram. You have, radio, you have TV, you have streaming services, you have so many different things today, which did not exist, a lot of them, when I was just years ago. Like streaming was not a factor back then, right? Today, we advertise on all the channels, including TikTok. And the best advice I would give people is every channel has a different audience. Experiment with all the different channels on a lower budget, see what works.
That's
And
it.
then when you find, and then once that work, also start A/B testing different messaging, A/B test different ads, different images, different videos, and eventually you'll find a combination that works. But in the very early stages, you have to allot a certain budget that you're just going to throw out the window because you need to experiment and find the right combination. And everyone has a different tolerance on what that amount is. But just know the very early stages, and you can attest to this, right? It's a game that you figure out.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
puzzle. But
supposedly,
once
yeah.
you figure it out, you're good. And then what happens is you can't settle. You have to keep experimenting over time, because over time, taste changes, channel mix changes, everything changes. So the best advice I can give people is try all the big channels that are out there, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Google Shopping, all combination, Bing. And then when you find something that works, start investing more into that channel over time, and then start experimenting with the different ads.
Yeah. So then, Jared, the next question they're going to ask you is how running your own business, do you have the challenges that you have to do things you like, you have to do things that you don't like.
Yep.
So how you overcome this challenge?
Well, the first step is, and this is not just something I'm saying, like something I preach and I tell people all the time, you got to do something you love. Because if you love what you do as a job as a whole, then you could tolerate the things that you don't like doing in terms of tasks.
Because when you start in a business, you have to wear all the hats. You have to be your accountant, you have
Yep.
to be your salesperson, you have to be your product person, you have to be your marketing person. There is no budget for anybody else. It's only you and your
Correct.
co-founder there. So wearing all
What I
those
would say,
hats, it can be
yeah,
sometimes overwhelming because there are lot of things. Of course, you have to do it. I remember with my first property business, we managed to sell over 5 million. Uh, I remember 31st of December, checking the accounts with New Year Eve, checking the accounts to to get them to the.
yep.
It's not that I enjoyed this process, but it was what the business needed at the time, and I was in love with the business, so I did it, and not only 1 year. It
The
counted
first,
until we managed for 2 3 years. I ended up in New Year's Eve in the office of the accountant alone, because obviously the accountant was not there. The accountant, we opened the office. Harry, stay there. This is all the sales. Sit there and review everything carefully. We submit the stuff.
the first hire everyone should do is hire a skill that you don't like doing, where somebody the first hire should be a person that you can give tasks that you don't like doing or you can't do well. That should be the
Exactly.
first hire that
This is
everyone
true.
should have.
That is
Because then
true.
you could stay focused on what you enjoy and what you like. And if you like it, then it doesn't feel like a job. Like for me, I never really celebrated any holidays. I didn't celebrate any family time, no birthdays of friends, nothing the first couple of years I started. I
Me
was
too.
just in it.
Me too.
I
The
was just
first two
in it,
year,
grinding.
they are very, very immersive. Otherwise, because being, I always share, is a skill. The more you practice, the better you become. So,
Yeah,
how fast do you want to develop the skill? It's like driving or swimming. If you're gonna drive a car, well, you have to practice, and eventually, there are people that even they shouldn't do that, but they talk on the phone and they drive at the same time because they have such a high skill that they can do it because they have the same with swimming. If I give you a book and I tell you, okay, read, and after jump into the water you'll be able to swim. It doesn't work like this. You need to jump into the pool, start to practice, and the more you practice, the better you become.
100%.
So you have to develop a skill. A skill requires practice. So the first 2 years, if you are immersed 100% in the business, you are developing the skill that get the product to the marketplace, developing the skill of how I can pivot my product at the right time, developing the skill or doing this account is something tough. As soon as I increase my sales, I will be able to. This is the first person that I want to hire because I'm
Yeah.
wasting so much time here. So it's all. But let's talk about the good things because people might say, "Wow, so much challenges." Then I don't want to be an entrepreneur. But what they don't know is that when I start to work, is amazing. After the first 2 years, in my case, you see, my first business was running off a pilot. I even went to my office and my manager told me, Harry, go home. We don't need you. I'm like, what? You don't need printing and photocopy? No, no, go home. Stay away from the. In fact, the problem in this business is you that you come and talk to us and let us work. Go home, go on holiday. We can run this company for you. We get our own paper. And it's amazing when after these 2 years of a lot of effort, it can become something beautiful, especially when it's an online business. You can do it from everywhere. Can you imagine that?
Yeah. And
Can
when
be
I
on
started,
holiday.
I started at a time because I started the business in 2017, but I didn't actually launch the business public until September 2019. I
Oh
spent
my
about a
God. Then
year and a half.
COVID came.
Yeah. And then COVID came as soon as I
Oh,
started to
la,
catch
la.
momentum.
And nobody's
And
driving, so who needs tire?
right. And the first
Everybody
two
have
months,
locked up.
yeah, the first 2 months, I thought I was going to go out of business. Nobody was driving the first 2 months. And then I just kept coming up with features and ideas until something stuck. And then we skyrocketed in 2020. I would say towards the end of 2020, we skyrocketed. And then 2021 took another leap, and we just kept taking leaps year after year after year. But starting a business right before COVID was terrifying. I mean, because
Probably the
you didn't
biggest
know the
lesson
world.
because it make you really
Right.
sharp.
Yeah.
And
We
then,
went
go ahead.
we went from having everyone in an office trying to build chemistry to then all of a sudden saying everyone has to work from home. And we had the old school hardwire phones. So we didn't have voice IPs like they have today, you know?
Wow.
And then when we had to have everyone work remote, we pivoted the business internally because the business model changed internally, right? All of a sudden you went from being in an office to working remote. And now we're back to like a hybrid model. But the thing is, if you're part of being a good entrepreneur is adapting to the environment you're in. In 2020 and 2022, e-commerce companies were suffering in those 2 years because the economy was all over the place. And everyone kept saying, oh, you're doing good for someone during COVID. No, 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 no. You can use that as an excuse. Like, yes, there are obviously exceptions, right? Because some things just weren't operating and people weren't traveling at some point. But a good entrepreneur figures out a way to adapt regardless of the environment that they're in,
Exactly.
outside of
And like the
exceptions.
positive things, everybody was at home. You know what? They can consume content. They
Yeah.
can consume a
Yeah.
lot of content. And then something that happened in COVID that all the they because the market was uncertain, it decided it was most of the company decided it was a good idea to cut the marketing budget, and it was totally the opposite. Few companies decide to do the opposite, and the advertising goes by beats. The
Yeah.
more people are advertising, the higher is the higher costs have to advertise. But if 80% of your competitors they are not advertising and
Well, let
they
me
are
give you a good
not
example.
now your cost of acquiring the clients is what was your position in the COVID times when you saw your competitors that wow, everybody's cutting the marketing budget,
We didn't cut it.
everybody. I
We
know,
didn't cut it.
I
We
know,
went in heavy.
I
We
know.
went in
I
heavy.
can tell. I can tell.
Yeah.
That's why
But
you have. But how? Why
yeah.
you decide to do something opposite what everybody else with more experience was doing? The big
Well,
companies, because all the
there
big
were two.
companies this is exactly what they did. They cut the marketing budget because again they say, okay, nobody's driving, and this is an overhead, this is an expense, so remove this expense. Whether
Well,
some people
look
took
at
this amazing approach and make a kill and got a big market share out of this.
yeah.
So why you decide to do the opposite?
Well, look at two. Let me give you two examples. Okay. During COVID, you had a lot of restaurants that couldn't open, right? And they were suffering. So what did they do? They started serving food outside, right? They adapted. If
And
you're
everybody start to do food delivery. I remember
yeah, everyone started to
sending
food
food
delivery.
home. Yeah.
And if you're a brick and mortar store selling clothes, right? You're a little boutique, start selling online, right? You got to adjust. Now with us, what we did was when the market got tough and everyone said pull back marketing, I said, look, we'll pull back for 2 months see where the market is, and then let's just lean in. And that's what we did. And the reason why we did that is we saw that the cost to advertise actually
Yes,
became better,
cheaper,
cheaper,
absolutely.
because people were pulling back. Then what we also did was we kind of used that time when we were slow and dying, like the first 2 months when COVID happened. Instead of me being depressed, I talked to my team. I said, hey, where do we need to improve? Let's use this downtime to improve what we're doing and invest. And what we did was we created a virtual training school during that time.
Wow, look at
And
this.
we ended up rebooting everything we knew internally and how we trained people, how we did customer support. Everything changed. We took the
And now you
time and
use it.
improved.
And now you use
Now
this
we use it
platform to train
100%.
everyone. Yeah, it's a stay
Yep.
there. We did something similar in our company, and we develop a lot of things online that we are using it even today.
Yeah.
So
When things are tough, that's not when you're supposed to be like pulling back. That's when you're supposed to get innovative.
what are the biggest how was the feedback for your dads, for your parents, that they are I mean entrepreneurs, but in a retail business that margins are not too good, and when it's not doing so well,
Yeah.
and the for your environment when you said I'm quitting and I'm doing my own business.
Okay. Well, first of all,
I make it because you were in an environment that the business was struggling. So the
yeah.
easiest is go out and find a job, something secure,
Well,
and you
it's
start
funny.
to.
My brother, when I told him I was going to start my own business, he's like, "Oh, you'll be back," and I was like, "No, I won't."
Oh
So that was the
wow!
first thing. I was also at the
I'll show
time,
you. Yeah.
yeah, every person in my life, friends, family, girlfriend at the time, her family, every single person told me I was going to fail. There was not one person who believed in me at the time. And, as a person who at that time I was 31, you know, that's tough. That's tough to take because you're
Oh
still kind of
yeah, tell
young.
me about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah. I
They
mean,
don't
no,
bad. They're just doing it because that's their opinion, and they think that they don't want you to
yeah.
suffer. They want to protect you. They will. They think that you can find is a better.
I
You
think,
will be
I
more
think it's
safe.
that. I think it's that, but it's also the fact that people have a hard time believing that someone next to them can be equally successful, right? And a lot of people want to be jealous or whatever, but I think for my parents, it's not any of that. I think they were worried, they were scared, right? Kind of like what you were saying. And they didn't understand why someone was giving me investment to start my business. And a lot of people, I think, I was going to start like a little business, like oh, go have fun type of thing, but for me it was my life. I
Whatever
knew it
it
was,
takes.
I had to. I didn't have any help. I was living at the time in a fake reality, is what I call it, because when you're working for your family, yes, like my dad treated me very hard in a good way. He only paid me on commission, didn't want to give me a salary. He wanted me to earn it. But you still, in the back of your mind, you say to yourself, I have a backup plan if it doesn't work, right? When I started my own business, it just so happened that my whole personal life was kind of falling at the same time. And I had to just prove everyone wrong. If I started the business, I tell people I went through a transition of first starting it because I wanted to prove everyone wrong. Then I did it because I wanted to survive. And now I'm at a point in my life where I want to be successful, not really for me, but for my loved ones, but then also to give back to the world. And so, you go through this different emotional journey as you're starting a business. And, you're obviously inspiring a lot of people, right? That's why you do this. And
Thank
I'm
you.
I'm trying to do the same, right? I want to help people. And so today, my motivation today is to help people and take care of the people I love. It's not about me. It's not about what fancy cars I buy or anything like that. It's because I'm trying to make a difference. And so today, my family embraces what I'm doing, and they obviously love it because we're
Mhm.
successful. But that's not how it was, and people forget that to get to this point, you have to put up with the no's and the rejections and the comments.
And at those times they are challenging. I remember starting my first business. Like I got a degree in chemical engineer, but my parents, they are teachers. They're not entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
So the whole idea in my house always was, you go to university, you get a degree, and you will be fine. So I went to university, 5 years, got a degree, chemical engineering, and I never exercised as a chemical engineer in my life.
you
I
brought up
gave
a
the
great point.
diploma. I got the diploma to them. They were very happy. but I want to become an entrepreneur. It was again in the back of my mind when I was working. I was always in the back of my mind. I going to I going to have my own business. I just need to choose which one to go for it. And challenges, but then when I started the first business again, the people around me, um, they were, well, you crazy? Why you don't find a job? Look, you went to university. And then my group of friends also they were employees. So I go out with my friends, and literally nobody cares. Nobody's even listening what I'm talking about. Nobody cares. They're not even. So somebody have a story at work. Everybody, wow, your manager did this, your manager did that. But then I go with my story. Look, I'm starting this business, and I want to. And everybody like, okay, get me a drink or what. Nobody really cares. So I find out that wow, uh, I'm about to lose all my friends. So I need new friends and my family and everything. I'm the first entrepreneurs in my family. I have inspired a lot. My brother is an entrepreneur. Few people already are starting the journey, but at the time I was the only one. My grandparent was an entrepreneur, but he died very when I was very young, so I couldn't really get the sense. And it was a small business anyway, a small grocery store. So the whole point is that in this moment that you getting old enough that you are starting up, that you wearing all these hats, that you do things you do, you like things that you don't like, that is stuff there that you have to survive it, you have to do it because nobody is. And then in your surrounding, you have most of the people doubting and
Yeah.
who do you think you are, or this doesn't make sense, or every time that I say to my mom I'm going to expand the business, my mom always said don't expand. Don't expand. I said, Mom, do you really know what it means? Because she's like, no, it's okay like this, don't expand. I don't want to hear you saying expansion anymore. It's enough. So things like that, right? So obviously this is a reflection, they want to keep you safe, but is
Yeah.
so these negative emotions that all this process, because you are and you have to take a lot, yeah, from your surrounding, plus for the rejection of the business itself, because people is your first, is you need to find the first client. So now they don't want to buy your pro, they want a different pro. Now you have to pivot. The way you're gonna find the money and all these emotions that we go through.
You
Parallel
know what
with
was
that
the
is a lot,
irony?
right? Yeah.
Well, you know what the irony, of everything was? The customers loved us. That was
Oh wow,
actually that was easy once I
at the
found the
beginning.
right fit. Once I kept
Yes.
pivoting and eventually I found it, it was easy. The hardest part and the most challenging part was these venture capital firms and investors didn't really see the vision. And I remember, now we did find some that saw it, and we raised I think like 10 or 12 million dollars as a whole over time. But what was kind of frustrating was that nobody really believed in what we were trying to accomplish. And they were so used to seeing startups that were fast growing and these sexy ideas, and machine learning at the time was like very popular. Then when I said I want to do a tire company, they were like, "What? Who cares? Not a big deal."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
because they want the unicorn. They want something that is 1,000x. So you go
"Yeah."
with the business that makes sense. That is actually something
And I
tangible
heard
that everybody needs, and so on. But if they don't see the billion, they don't want to get involved,
and
right?
I heard the most ridiculous rejections. I
Oh
heard
yeah.
not enough. I heard not enough people buy tires. I heard, yeah. I mean, I heard too
They will
much
put you down.
competition. Too much competition. I heard, oh, you don't have a co-founder. You don't
Yeah.
have tech skills. And I'm like, you can hire
You
and
need the
solve for.
CTO. You need the CTO
Yeah,
in the tech space. You have a tech business. What is your CTO? And like, man, I had if I sell it and I'm making
yeah,
profit,
you can
and
get it.
exactly. So
Yeah. So what I had realized is being this actually very toxic at times, because there's not enough people rooting for you. Everyone is telling you why you're not going to make it. Nobody's saying why you can make it. And when people look at
And with a
entrepreneurs
little
like
bit of
us,
money, you can make a huge difference. But this
huge.
little money, nobody wants to give it to you. And they say, well, you need more traction. Then, oh, after you have the traction and you have the thing, well, I don't know, you need bigger presence in following in social media. Then you get the following social media. There's always something. Um,
Exactly. And the
and
frustrating more than anything is I knew that if I just got the money I needed, it can work out, right? And so it took time to kind of really get that
it's
off the
very
ground and
expensive to
convince.
acquire the clients.
Very expensive.
Funding without funding is, oh my God, because it's direct to consumer. You're talking about
But the good news is that every entrepreneur should know is we live in a world of untapped potential. Everyone has potential if they believe in themselves. And there's always someone out there that'll believe in your idea if you keep looking far enough. You just have to make sure you find your fit and your product market fit, and investors will come over time. That's
absolutely.
the good news, right?
So somebody's in love with our conversation. They want to know about your company. Where can they find you? How the website? What's the name of the website?
Yep. So TireAgent.com, but I'm very accessible on LinkedIn. I love helping entrepreneurs. I love giving advice. I love, teaching. So if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn with my name, and they can find me and reach out. But our website is TireAgent.com, and thankfully we are still the fastest growing online tire retailer.
Absolutely, absolutely. You just started, my friend.
I hope so.
So
Long way to go,
absolutely. Thank you
and
so
a lot of
much.
hair to lose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We look like twins.
That's right.
So thank you so much for your time. I really wish
Thank you.
you well. I think that you're brilliant, and I think that everybody is always about wow, looking at the entrepreneur, and they say, look how much money he's making, how many. But there is always story behind that success, and if you're resilient, if you know how to deal with your emotions and after work on yourself, because you're gonna after the business, this actually happened to me after the business was growing and was doing amazing, but I may still have emotional pain
Yep.
storage in my brain because of that first 2 year process, from family, from friends, from this. So you are a girlfriend. So you have all this emotional pain there that somehow when the business work, you have to start to release this emotional pain to make
Yep.
yourself work and to find out who you really are. Like, for example, you change from survival, same like me, to now I want to help. I want money is not going to make me happy. Oh, because money is not gonna make you happy. What is gonna make you happy is make a difference for a human being. And now
100%.
fulfillment, if you are helping other people, you are healthy, you're happy, you get paid in a different currency, which is better than money, which is with love, appreciation. People want to help you, and things like this. Yeah, my phone is in silent because if I put my phone in sound, gazillion people call all the time. Harry, help me with this. Harry, help me with that. You see, so but when you go and you're about to help people, you create a different dynamic in your life, and I think that all this journey is for a reason. But after, because that's the other thing as well. The entrepreneur. At the beginning, I was when I have my clients and my property business, I'm thinking these clients are gonna kill me. There are too many. They all want to talk to me and they don't care. I want to talk to Harry. I want to talk to Harry. I'm saying, well, if all of you want to talk to me when I sleep, for example, you see,
Yeah.
because so you have to start to create this self protection. Because when you are in the business, that environment can literally can be harmful for your health, and it depends on the work that you're taking and the clients and so on. So that, Jared, so we want from this broadcast all the entrepreneurs to be wealthy, healthy, and happy. So it's not only about become wealthy. How can we be fulfilled? How can we be happy? And how can we be healthy? So all this work that we have done, we can actually enjoy it Yeah, where the so sad, so a lot of entrepreneurs they make a lot of money and they die of a heart attack because they saw they still have this negative emotion when they said that they haven't released. So I wish that you were 360 in you as a human being, not only the success of the business, but the success of how to be a global conscious entrepreneur, how to do good for society, to do good for your community, for the charity, because like this we all can have a better world to live. Thank you so much, and for all of you
Thank you.
following, pleasure, and follow you following the broadcast. Next episode of Unstoppable, how brave entrepreneur like Jared break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.